What is going on YouTube? We are headed back from the dealership. We got our head gasket, we got our tube seals. So today we are throwing the head gasket back on, getting her buttoned back up, and hopefully we will see some startage today and we can check out what coolant pressures are doing and kind of compare them and see where they are at with a brand new head gasket. It is a little crappy outside, so we're not going to be able to really get into a lot of boost, but I will be able to put on the trans brake, build some boost, and kind of see what the coolant pressure is doing, do a little bit of drivability test and see what's up. So that's what we'll be doing today. We'll do a little instructional video on head gasket, my easiest method of putting a head gasket on. Of course, you guys saw that I leave the intake manifold on, but yeah, it can be a little bit of a pain getting around the hoses and the wires, but as long as you're able to get them out of the way, it goes on pretty easy. So we'll get back at that and I'll let you guys see how I install this head gasket. All right guys, we got our head gasket, we're ready to go. What I like to do before I do anything is I'm gonna clean the surface up really good with alcohol. Make sure you get your Honda bond off, which I still have to do. But before you place your head gasket down, that surface and the surface of your head has to be extremely clean. No oil residue, no water, no dirt. So you need to make it as clean as you can get it with brake cleaner, alcohol, whatever you got. So we're gonna clean stuff up and get ready to install this head gasket. All right, so we cleaned up our head really good. We already applied our lower layer of Honda bond. Our dowels are in. So now we're gonna place our head gasket in, make sure the orientation is correct. We put it in dry. Make sure your orientation is right. You don't wanna put it in wrong, that'd be bad. And everything looks good. And then what we're gonna do is we're gonna run a little bit more Honda bond on this outer guy because it doesn't have to be a ton, but these do leak if you don't do Honda bond on these outer strips for some reason. Just a nice layer. All right. And once that is done, we already cleaned up our head. We'll check the head, make sure there's nothing coming out. Everything looks good. So now we're gonna go ahead. I'm gonna actually climb into the car. One thing you gotta do, you gotta make sure that this stays over, okay? So when you're putting the head down, you can kind of smash that. Some people put like a rubber band around it. I just make a mental note to make sure that that's out of the way. I'm gonna take the head, I'm gonna climb inside the car here. What I do is I kind of slide her back in there. Again, make sure this guy's out of the way. And we're on. That's how easy it is. It's not too bad. Just make sure your dowels are in there. And make sure you clear your timing mark. And once you get that, falls right in. Make sure you didn't pinch anything. So we're gonna go to the other side and make sure that we didn't pinch a wire or nothing's caught. And everything looks good. All right. That's it, guys, we're in. We're gonna go ahead and start installing our studs. You gotta do this fairly quickly. I mean, you don't have to like rush like crazy, but the Honda bond has a little bit of time to kind of set up, and then we'll just drop the stud down in, just like that. Here. So you're just going to take the head of the stud and just do a nice even coat of ARP assembly lube and throw her down in there. You got to coat the fronts and the backs, okay? That way you don't have to coat your nut. You can just slip your nut on. But make sure you coat front and back of these washers. And that's too big. Hand tight and then half a turn out is what I always do. The first iteration, all right, we're going to go ahead and throw the idler in now. The idler's pretty easy to throw in there. So remember guys, if you want to do your timing setup kind of factory, these two marks right here are going to be even with the deck of the top of the head. That means that you have to be top dead center though. So what we're going to do is we're going to throw a, actually I'm going to do that yet. We're going to throw a screwdriver down number one to make sure it's top dead center, which I know it's close right now, but it's not quite, probably not quite top dead center, but it's very close. So what I do, I throw a screwdriver down number one hole, and then I will take, because I have a magnet for that, you're going to put the chain on the back side. That way you can fit this in without any really issues. Okay, so, and then I can go ahead and put your bolt in. You don't tighten it up. That's just to keep it from moving. And then what I do is I get this lined up as I can, and then I match the chain up to it. So once the teeth fall up, and the teeth did fall in. Let me try it again. Right about there. All right, so that looks like, sometimes what you have to do then is drop the idler back down, but try to keep the tooth marks that you're on, it doesn't move. During that process too, make sure that your top dead center did not change. And that is how you do your idler. One thing you do want to do before you start sticking a lot of stuff on top is you want to get to all the sensors in the back. So you have your ground sensor that hooks to the back of the engine here, your coolant temp sensor that hooks back here, and make sure you re-hook up your coolant hose. So we're going to go ahead and knock that out real quick. Okay, next is we're doing our cams and cam caps. So what I do, make sure the surface is clean before you put your tower on. And then you guys with VTech, I suggest doing like a rubber band deal to hold everything in place. If you got solid rockers like me, it's a lot easier to get it on there. But the VTech, when you got 3 fingers trying to fight you, it's a little rough. So what I'm doing right now, just wiping the cams down real quick. Go ahead and get some assembly lube going. You want to put a little bit of assembly lube or oil, whatever you got, on these cam cap holder girdle dealio. You don't want these going in dry. That is not ideal. Exhaust cam, how you guys can tell, and yes, I do run stock cams. EX for exhaust, okay? Exhaust is on my side. And the dot or the dash is gonna go towards the inside, okay? All right. We'll get our intake cam. Let your intake cam in. And if you're close, they'll kind of just fall in there. And these are close. As if we go down here like that, okay, I'm gonna zoom in. So you guys see the 2 dashes? I have little white paint marks on them. And when you look at this stuff, you gotta have to kind of tilt your head sideways like this, because the motor sits in there sideways. So you just wanna make sure that they are lined up straight across, and you can see that our idler pulley is also, the dash is close. Not that that matters. All that matters is that you're top dead center, that those are lined up, okay? So you can see when I push on the chain tensioner, how it moves that idler, okay? But our cams are still in the cams are still in the teeth, and they are lined up. So that's what you're looking for. Cam caps are in, guys. Make sure exhaust intake, make sure you go by the book on your torques. Start in the middle, work your way out. And that's pretty much it. What I also do is I recommend taking spark plugs out, turn the motor over, make sure everything is looking and sounding good. There's no binding. Everything's working here. Your gears aren't all bounded up. Typically, you're gonna know that when you go to try to torque something, your caps aren't gonna smash down. You really got to watch these gears that they're mating up. So you can look through here, make sure those gears are mating up good. You don't want to snap or chip a tooth off with those gears. But everything looks good. So I'm going to go ahead and slap on our valve cover. We're good on the motor. I put the valve cover on just to keep everything nice and clean and safe in there. And then we will start running our harness back over everything and get ready to put the turbo kit back on. Of course, we do have our alternator as well. So I'm gonna time lapse pretty much everything from here on out, because everything else is pretty self-explanatory. Just hooking everything up, all your sensors, fuel lines, all that stuff. So let's time lapse that. I'll be back with you in a minute. new head gasket, new studs. We got everything in. I did almost mess up, so I put my manifold on before I put my chain tensioner on. And I was able to have enough room to wiggle it in there, but normally I'd put that on first, gives me more room. Then you can slide your turbo manifold on. But we were able to get it on. My downpipe bracket, it broke again. So we're gonna have to be going back to Bailey's once again. I still need Bailey to do my EGTs, but probably gonna have to do a bracket. I don't know if we're gonna do like a rubber mount or something, but it just keeps busting, so nothing we can do there. But what we're gonna do now is I'm looking everything over real quick. We're gonna get to the laptop, and I'm gonna show you guys something really cool in Max ECU that you can do. Yeah, I'll show you. All right, so what we wanna do now is we want to crank the car. So something really cool in Max ECU, if you go to inputs and triggers, you can disable fuel and ignition so that when you're cranking, you're not filling the car full of fuel. And right now our spark plugs are out, so that way it cranks over a little bit easier. So let's go ahead and crank over until we see oil and fuel pressure, which is over there. We already primed fuel, so fuel should rise pretty quick, and it is. And there's oil pressure. There we go. We're ready to fire up. All you gotta do is come back over here, deselect these, and we'll throw our spark plugs in and fire her up. All right, we're gonna go and crank her up and get her bled. First crank on the new head gasket. Well, guys, I think my cam's off. I think the cams are definitely off. So, I should have made sure it looked like they were on. Maybe they were not. But needless to say, I'm gonna rip the valve cover back off and see if we can see that the cams are off. It sounds like cams are off. My suspicions were right, guys. So I should have checked this, but check out where those two marks are at. So you can see the paint. It's a tooth off, one exact tooth off. So we have to adjust those. So we're gonna have to loosen up the cam caps, adjust the one cam, get her started back up. But prime example of what the car sounds like if you're off a tooth. So if you're off a tooth, the car just has no response, very little compression. As you could tell, I couldn't get it to rev up. It doesn't hurt anything, it's a non-interference. So it's not gonna hurt anything, and I turned it over by hand, so you would hear a valve hit if, you know, something was gonna interfere, but everything's fine. I just gotta get the tooth off, and she'll fire right back. So I had the car started, and I went to reverse, and my trans brake wasn't working. Come to find out, these set screws all loosened up, and one of them actually broke that holds the trans brake together. So I took the whole thing apart, I cleaned it up. Seems to be working on the bench, so I got some new set screws. That's 2 sets of set screws in 1 week. Gonna go ahead and blue Loctite those in there, and we'll get it back. So we found a couple of problems. Problem number one, the trans brake, the whole body loosened up inside, set screws broke. And I think it shorted itself out. And when it shorted itself, I think it backfed voltage to my solid state relay, which controls my output and my bump. And I think it fried that too. So I got a new trans brake solenoid coming and a new solid state relay. So I can't reverse the car, so I'm gonna have to push it out because I need to hit the trans brake for it to go into reverse. So the car will still run fine. It just doesn't have trans brake. So Mac valve came in, so we are gonna put the Mac valve and hook that up. And then we're gonna go out and start testing the Mac valve. All right, in this log, so I want to show you guys what is happening before we did the head gasket. So here you can see a small pool. I'm only on 22 pounds. And this purple line here is our coolant pressure. And you can see we're reaching almost 18 pounds of coolant pressure after the pool. And I would see as high as 22 to 25 when I was running bigger boosts. When we were racing like at Dig or Die and stuff, I was seeing pretty high coolant pressures. So the importance of having a coolant pressure sensor, it tells you a lot about what's going on with your head gasket and coolant system. And so let's swap on over to after the head gasket. All right, here is after the head gasket. You guys can see that this is about a 30-pound pool, and I'm only seeing 6.5 pounds of coolant pressure. So obviously the new head gasket definitely took care of whatever pressure issues we were having. So pretty significant difference. The car is also staying a lot cooler. And this coolant pressure is pretty much vertical the whole way, or horizontal the whole way. It doesn't change. I think as high as I saw was about 8 to 9 when the car gets a little warmer, and which is normal. But I'm not seeing anywhere close to 20 and 25 like I was seeing prior. So definitely fixed our head gasket issue with the new head gasket and new studs. And this is going to do it for this video. If you guys want to see anything in particular on the new Max ECU, write it in the comments and I can show you guys some other things. If you want to see anything, just let me know. And that's going to do it for this video. Please comment, like, subscribe if you like what you're watching, and I'll see you guys next time.